Hey, it's Brad. I've been noticing my time run short and then feel like I don't have time to record anything or don't have anything worth saying at the moment. But again, that's exactly why I'm making myself do these short so that I can have no excuse to not just squeeze another one in at the end of the day. So, to get back to a couple of other things I had wanted to expand, the ownership of experience, and then the memory of it. So say you have your meat suit has ownership of the sensory input, and then the aggregate experience, the non-quantifiable qualia. If you can separate that as being something that is yours, imagine that you never actually have the experience so much as you get the memory of having the experience. And it's a strange dynamic to wrap your head around, but like I haven't done it before. There's plenty of times a thought could be misattributed. You see it a lot with Alzheimer's and other dementia patients and things, where they'll think a statement or hear a statement or see something on TV or just in passing, and firstly, who knows how that gets translated, if there's any sort of a input hallucination, pattern recognition layer or anything, but it does get in one way or another, gets confabulated into their current context, which is already potentially bypassing a lot of little safeguards to trust the information. If it just jumps right into the memory, then there's no checks, and then it just gets kind of a roll of the dice as to how that gets stored, whether it gets saved as just truth or something someone did to them. And it makes it very hard. It seems like almost never do they assume that it's a dream, which makes me think firstly that a lot of times the only way that we can distinguish memories from dreams is the richness or specific content. That's a whole nother subject. As for the ownership bit, if we didn't have such an individualistic mindset where what happens to me and what things I achieve, what things I possess belong to me, if that wasn't the basic thought, then granted, there's immediate jump to hippie commune level, share and share alike, and immediate post scarcity. Well, true, but aside from that, there's these tribal civilizations where, similar to any society that has integrated some sort of a indiscriminate sexual practice, or at least anonymous, where the line of heredity is just completely obscured. So for that, or the tribes that are pretty much fully polyamorous, that just wander around and repopulate, they don't have ownership of their relationship or specific ownership of their family, which is something we can't even really comprehend. It's so drastically foreign to us. Because of that, because we perceive our mode of relationship to be good. Nothing wrong with that. And because we do that, we try to wrap our heads around another one and compare it against ours to see whether it is also good. Well, if the fundamental difference is a societal constraint that we have, they don't, or in some cases vice versa, that's apples to oranges. You can't really, hold one to the other one's standards, but you can look at the underlying standards between both. There are a lot of times, like in the Bible, where Jesus talks about how in the beginning things weren't how they ended up being as far as the law goes. And it's a lot of times stuff where, the Israelites or Moses or whomever in the given instance screwed up. And because of that, there were additional constraints. And I don't know what it would look like to have a fully polyamorous society in, modern first world country. And I do know that if we were to try to jump from here to there, that would destroy things. There is no beneficial way to do that, at least not short term, and the only long-term way that makes sense, that doesn't require some drastic shift like that, goes through some really bad places that are going to destroy us in totally other ways. That sort of way, like, for something to be right for one person and not for another, the simplest instance of that is like privacy. It's right for you to view your private information or private images or files or whatever, but it's not right for someone who doesn't have that authority. If you don't have ownership of anything, then you have kind of innate transparency and openness, because you don't have any sort of privacy. Because privacy is pretty much ownership of your experience. You're saying that no one else gets to share this experience. And that's totally fine, has been forever. But we're getting to the point that that's not entirely feasible. And it's going to be a while before that, really takes root anywhere. But when memory is shareable, then you have to have some sort of a, privacy encoding on it. Otherwise, it becomes just overgeneralized. It just becomes bland. The specifics of information have to be bound to the value, and those values get determined by the context. So what gets bound in rule of law out of necessity for the situation becomes what is right for the people in that situation. Just